The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
We thought we'd start with some music this morning for our Rockin' Renewals Power Panel webinar. So we're so excited that you're here and joining us today. My name is Melissa DeSico, and I am the Director of Client Performance for Apartment Ratings and Satisfax. And we are so excited to talk all things renewal today with our incredible panelists. So we want to make sure we get into all the details today. Just a few housekeeping items. If you've not been to a Power Panels webinar before, it will be about 60 minutes today. And the good news is we'd love for you to take notes, but we'll also send a follow-up email that includes the recording of today's session and also the slides that I'm showing today. So you will get those in addition to, at the very end of our webinar today, we're going to talk about some renewal event ideas. So this follow-up email will also include a link to some follow-up event ideas. So you'll have a whole guide on things you can do for renewal events. So we're super excited to share that with you at the end. Throughout today, we will be using the questions box on your GoToWebinar panel. So if you see that, I see someone already said hello. So hello, everyone. If you can, we'd love to have questions from our audience today. So if you have a question for any of our panelists, or if there's something you were just dying to know, or maybe it's something you want to share with the audience as well. So if you want to share something about renewals and something cool that you do, please use that questions box, and I'll make sure to check that as often as I can and answer those questions. So please use that. At the end of today, we will also have an exit survey. So as you know, we love feedback here at Satisfax. So please stick around to take that exit survey, rate the session today, because we always want to make these better for you, and give us a comment because we may feature you on social media. So please tell us what you loved or what you didn't in that exit survey. As a reminder, we offer Power Panel webinars every third Thursday of the month, with the exception of December because there's too much going on in December with holidays. But every other month, we have the third Thursday of every month, we have a Power Panels webinar. So in January, we start a whole new series for 2022. So we're super excited to get started on that for 2022. In addition, so we have a fun contest. So if you stick around till the end, we also have a contest on social media for you to win a $50 Starbucks gift card so that you can get your team all caffeinated with our Starbucks gift card. In order to be entered, I'm going to have some records on, if you know what a record looks like, it's the big round black thing with a fun colored center. We'll have some records on some of the slides today, and we'll have a lyric or a song title on those records. And if you write that down and can find the band or artist, in our follow-up to this webinar, we'll put the audience rating up on our social media channels, and we'd love for you to list at least one of the bands or artists that you noticed today, if you can guess what it is, and that's what you'll comment on to win that $50 Starbucks gift card. So a little different today, and I'll remind you of that at the end, but look out for those song titles or lyrics on our slides today. All right. Moving along, so if you haven't been to our Power Panels webinars before, we always have the recordings available at satisfax.com. So if you go to the education library there, you can find all kinds of cool resources, including all of our recordings of these Power Panels series. So last month was Overcoming Delinquency Blues. We've also had Celebrating Teams and unique events and things like that. So all kinds of fun stuff that you can check out on satisfax.com. Woo! All right. So we want to get started with renewals. Let's dive right in. So if you are a client of Satisfax, I'm sure you've heard before what we call the movable middle. So we're all here because renewals are about 50% of our NOI, right? About 50% of our residents typically renew every year, but we think there's an absolute chance to be getting more of that percentage of your residents to actually renew their lease. So when you think through this, on our Satisfax Insight surveys across the country, about 42% of residents are very likely to renew. So they're already ready. You've primed them. They want to keep living with you. So about 42% are there. But there's that 18% that are saying, nope, it's not going to happen. So we kind of like leave them to the side, right? But then there's also this group that are either somewhat likely or not so sure at the time. And so that gives us about 40% that really offer us an opportunity. And those are the folks that we still have a chance before their lease expires to move them back over to that very likely category. And so that's what we're dealing with here. Those are the ones that we really want to see. Can we make a difference and move those to the very likely category? So this is what we're looking at. That movable middle is what we're really targeting. Obviously, we want to keep taking care of all the other folks, but these are the ones that they're not so sure. So our panelists today are really going to talk about how can we get that movable middle and move them to the right category. You know, and they always say, you know, we'll talk about this a lot with our panelists, but from day one, you know, you always hear the ABCs, right? Always be closing with leasing. But I think really when you're thinking about renewals, it's about always be connecting, right? That's the new ABCs of renewals. And I think you'll hear a lot of that from our panelists today. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them because they are incredible and have so much to share with you all today. So we will get started, and let's start with Jerry. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Jerry. I am the operations trainer here at Stevens Scott Management. We're in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area in Minnesota. We manage about 10,000 units and over 500 employees. And I have managed properties from 57 units, just a small mid-rise, to 384 unit townhomes. And now I train our employees on the how-to process of our daily operations.
Wonderful. That's so amazing. Kimberly, let's hear a little bit from you.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Heaton, and I've been working in property management for about 25 years. And I started on site, but I've worked in training, marketing, and all types of different roles, regional manager. And so I'm really excited to be back on site at a very small property and a senior property right now. So I manage two, and just excited to be here to talk about how to get it done.
That's right. And Kimberly is also managing the #1 Epic community in the country. So she has the highest Epic score across the country at Vista View. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
She's so quiet. All right. And last but not least, Danja.
Hey, everybody. My name is Danja Putnam. I am a regional property manager for SLNS Bomb. I have a tiny 500 unit portfolio, but they are super. We just took over it and we are doing renovations, and it is very exciting. I've been in multifamily for 100 years, and I started on site as leasing during college and have had various positions in corporate, from social media, compliance, and now am a regional helping out my team to succeed. And I'm excited to be here.
Yay. We're so excited to have you guys, and again, to share your magic today. So when we start thinking about, so obviously we don't really want to talk about the process of renewals, right? Because it's not really a thing that's like step one is this, and you can't go through it super easy like that. But since you all have so much experience in the industry, I want to talk about what are your sort of top 2 things that you do to manage the renewal process for your either properties or your community specifically. So Danja, I know we just talked to you, but can you kind of start with your top 2 tips?
Yes, I'm excited to talk about this first one because I learned this from, I don't know if she goes by Leah Smith or Leah Nicole Smith.
Yeah.
But she talked at Bama in 2017, and it was the greatest thing ever for renewals. And one of the things I took away is that renewals start at first contact. So as soon as you are showing the apartment and moving them into the apartment, that's when you start your renewal process. And one of the main things that she talked about was making sure that the move-in goes smoothly, that there are no service requests at move-in that everything is completely done. And if there are service requests, because we are human and we may miss something, that they are addressed promptly, quickly, and corrected the first time. And so it does start at first contact, and maintenance is one of the main key points to your renewal price process, making sure things that are followed up on all the time and are completed at first try. And then my second tip is that if you're giving large increases, then I recommend that you meet with people in person before you even start sending out a letter with money or price on it. That gives you an opportunity to sit down and talk with the residents and see where they are, especially those middle people that you talked about. See what is important to them, and then start building the value of your property to them. And start early, not like 60 days before their lease is up. Start your contact and your meeting with them and chatting with them during their first lease. So those are my top 2 tips for managing the renewal process.
Wonderful. And Kim, what do you have to add?
I would second her motion and say that it all begins with the relationship that you establish from the leasing process forward. We like to make personal calls to our residents and or schedule a time to just kind of talk with them and just do regular check-ins with them. You know, what's going on with their family, any plans for the future, and like if they're looking to retire in the next year, things like that. We kind of already have a gauge on that in advance. And then the other thing that we do that is kind of old school, but I still believe in it, is that we gauge our audience. And so if you have residents that would like you to come to them or schedule appointments rather than just do everything online, then we do it. We take their old-fashioned lease addendum and go to their door and, you know, sit down in their apartment and sign it.
I love that. I love that. You just got to find out what that individual resident wants, right?
Exactly. Make it very personalized.
Yep. All right. And Jerry.
Yeah, so along with what the other ladies mentioned, you know, starting from the beginning, but really for me, my top 2 are sending reminders and contact them, you know, 60, 30, 15 days before the expiration. Remain consistent with that. You know, making sure that you really are contacting them, and whether it's via email or you send letters or you phone call, whatever you do, just making sure that you stay in contact with them if you haven't received word from them that they will be renewing or they're going to be moving out or going on month to month, whatever that may be. And one thing I do, I also add that to my signature templates in my email. So it's just really easy for me to select a signature for my drop down and then just personalize it with their name, their lease end date, or month, start date, whatever that may be. So that's really, really helpful for me just to remain consistent. And another item would also be following through with putting them with month-to-month charges. So when their lease expires, make sure that before it even expires, post those month-to-month charges. Sometimes when they see it on their ledger or they're going in and paying rent online, that, you know, dollar signs are great reminders for us. So when they see a dollar sign on there that it's the month-to-month rate, they might be more willing to have a conversation with you or say, oh, yep, I just forgot to sign my lease. Let me go quickly in and sign it so I don't have to see this dollar sign on here anymore. So following through and then also sending reminders, my top 2 tips for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that it's personalized. And I think technology has really helped us in terms of allowing for that personalization, as you mentioned, probably tokens in your software. But I think going even further, and I'm sure you all do this as well, but personalizing just the letter or the email as well. So just not that sort of canned response that just says, here's when your date is, and just pop in those numbers, but really just say, you know, I hope your family's doing well. I hope you had a good holiday, you know, whatever you can think of that's personal to that resident. Make it sound like it came directly from you, even though you're sending it to probably a dozen or so people. But make sure that there's something in there that helps them know that you know them, right? I think that sort of leads us into this next section. And when we do our Satisfaction Insight surveys, we ask residents, or why did you not choose very likely to renew? And there are all kinds of different answers from a pick list of things that could be a possible driver of them not wanting to renew, right? And here's kind of what the breakdown is, at least the top 6 or so, for what is driving doubt. Why are they saying, I'm not so sure, or no? So what is really driving that? And rent increase obviously is the number one. So that one is there at 33%. But as Danja mentioned earlier, there's only about 10% or a little less that can't afford that rent increase. So while people are saying that's the reason that they're not wanting to renew their lease, only about 10% of them can't afford it. So what that means is the other 20-something% believe that it's not worth it, right? So there's not enough value here for me to pay an additional amount of money. So that's where we have an opportunity. So that is where that value conversation comes in, because even when you look at all of these other components, so if it's neighbors, if it's parking, if it's the apartment and the appearance and condition of that, all of those things wouldn't matter as much if they thought they were getting value for what they were paying every month. So usually if they feel like they're valued as a resident, parking no longer matters. It's an inconvenience, yes, but they're not going to list it as a reason they're not going to renew, because there are so many other things at their community that they are thankful for, right? November is the thankful month, right? So what else are they thankful for? And what do you do that's different at your community that really sets you apart and drives that value? So another thing we talk about with this doubt situation is when you look at the top reasons for people not wanting to renew, you want to make sure that they are uncontrollable things. So when you look at this list, the ideal list would have, maybe rent increase on there, but the other things would be, buying a home, or I have a new job in a new city and I'm moving and I can't do anything about it. You want it to be those uncontrollable things. So that's sort of the goal when you're looking at your personal pick list of why people aren't renewing. You want to see all those things that are uncontrollable. Nothing you can do can change what's going on, right? But the ones that you can control, that's again where you have that opportunity. And if you see this other, obviously value is here at 13%. But when you look at when people choose other, I went through, there are thousands of them. There are thousands of reasons, but guys, over 80% of them are related to value as well. So really, when you think about it, it's really about 30% direct value that they actually are telling you. So a lot of that really is value. And that's why, when you are a Satisfax client, we talk a lot about value drivers. So we've been tracking this since 2013. So what makes residents want to pay more to live at your community? Since 2013, sense of community has been the number one thing. And so that is, are residents celebrated? Do they feel like they're part of an exclusive club? Do you know them by name? Are you inviting them personally to things? Do they feel like they're valued at your community? That has been number one across the board. Other things like quality of maintenance, the apartment, things like that, those are sort of the standard things that are expected. You'll get good scores and you'll get people that want to renew if you don't raise the rent, if you are doing well at those sort of baseline things. But if you want them to take a rent increase and be happy about it, and not have any complaints, these are the 5 things that you really want to focus on at your community to really drive that value. Sense of community is one. Making sure their apartment appearance and condition is really up to their expectations. So with COVID, people are in their apartments way more often. So we want to make sure that they are happy with what those look like inside. Social media is back in the list. So social media really, previously, I know Danja probably can speak to this, but a lot of communities use social media as a leasing tool, but it's really a retention tool. So this is a really good place to celebrate your residents, to talk about the lifestyle at your community and why people should value living there. Community events came back in again with COVID. They missed us. They want to do events. So bringing that back, and then neighbors is up in that top 5 as well. So those are the things that are driving that value. So when you're thinking about all of these value conversations, I asked my panelists, so we want to know, how do we overcome those objections? So even if they do feel like there's value, when you have a rent increase, you're always going to have that why conversation, right? So we wanted to talk, and let's start with Jerry. So let's talk about how do we overcome objections, knowing that, the value is what we're driving here.
Right. So for me, setting up that appointment to actually listen to their concerns. So somebody mentioned earlier, talking to them, that personalization with them. So set up an appointment to listen to their concerns or objections. And if you're unable to reach a decision, like let's say, you're going to do a $100 increase and, there's a little bit of room that you have to work with, you can't bring it down. However, that's still not going to make them happy and renew with you. You might have to get back to them. So follow up with whatever you're able to kind of compromise with them. But setting up that time so you can really listen to them and have that personal factor with them, that's really, really important. And then also don't be afraid to offer a transfer. If it's something where it's a rental increase and they're in a 2-bedroom and, maybe they can go down to a 1-bedroom, if that's something that they are willing to do, that could be something where you can ultimately save them a lot more money. And, don't be afraid to waive some of the transfer fees if that's something that you are able to do. So really listen to their concerns and then follow up with them.
Yes, excellent. I think that's something we forget too. If there is a transfer available, I think that's a really good point to keep them in the family, right? And I think those that have larger portfolios, if you have a sister community as well, that sort of keeps them in the family too. If it really does come down to sort of a I can't afford situation. Danja, what do you have for us?
I have the song lyrics on the record or in my brain. I can't stop thinking about them. I can't stop. Okay, sorry. So right now in my market, everybody's increasing rents pretty aggressively. The market is super tight. So what we're doing to overcome objections is just actually pointing out the market environment. So being familiar with your marketing, knowing your comps pricing and how you weigh in is something that we all can do no matter what the market, but we're just kind of pointing to the increases in the market and saying, hey, shop around and you'll find that this is a reasonable increase for our area because our area is very tight on apartments right now. And then it's old school Tony Blake cost of living adjustment. This is all in the news right now, where people are talking about the cost of goods and labor going up. So that's something that you can tactfully, it has to be done carefully because otherwise you sound kind of like a jerk, but tactfully telling them, hey, prices of everything are going up. We're paying more for our lawn care. We're paying more for the stuff that we need to run in our apartment. And, everything is going up in the economy. And that's kind of a reason, even though they might not take it as well as expected. And then at the end of the day, what you really need to know is what their objection is when you're talking about the value. And they will bring out their list of 75 work orders, because I'm going to keep talking about maintenance, y'all. 75 work orders that were never fixed, never corrected, took you 2 weeks to do, and they will bring that out. So when you're thinking about renewals, you need to think holistically about the entire operation of your property. And are you taking care of service requests? And are you taking care of things with the neighbors? If they've complained about them, can you at least say that you did something? And that helps you build in that renewals and overcome those objections.
I think that's a really good point. Maybe we should sort of change the way, instead of at 120 days, we start the process in using air quotes there. But maybe at 160 days on our calendars, we check to make sure, are we caught up with this resident? When was the last time we checked in? That's sort of setting you up for success too, because you're doing it when it doesn't look so much like it's
desperate.
You want something from them, right? So set it for, just do a quick check, like, we keep up with this pretty regularly, right? But maybe there's a point in time in the residency that you do a audit, like, how are we doing? These people are coming up in this many, months. So we want to make sure that we're up to date. So then that list of issues, right, is less, or hopefully, again, it doesn't look like we're desperate or we just want something from them. So now we're going to all of a sudden start doing all these work orders or whatever it is, or answer the complaint about, their neighbors and things like that. So I think that's a really good point. So maybe set a new sort of touch point in that resident life cycle. Kim, what do you guys do for your overcoming objections? Oops, she might be on mute.
Hi, sorry about that. I think it starts of all the above what everyone is saying, but I also think that we have this amazing feature now, Satisfact, that kind of gives you a temperature reading from day one. So when you get those reviews and you see if you got a 5-star, 4-star, or 2-star, there's your opportunity to see, or take a temperature reading right away. And just constantly watching those and paying attention to it, but also looking at your rent roll and saying, okay, this person's awfully quiet. I've never heard from them. They never even fill out the survey and things like that too. So that might be someone that could be dangerous that you don't know that they have a problem or there's something they don't dislike. So I think just keeping in touch, again, I cannot say enough, the relationships you create and you monitor and you help grow. Also maintaining your property. Number one, most important thing I think is people want to know that a management company is approachable, they're open and they're available. They tell you what they can do, not what they can't, and all year round. So they see it, you're visible, you're approachable. And then the other thing is knowing your market, like somebody else mentioned, and having that ability to say, if it really is a price point, let me show you what's available and help them find an apartment. We've actually had people leave for price points and come back or refer other people to us. So business is always growing in everything you do. Don't think of it as you lost somebody. Think of it as there's an opportunity when someone moves out to also get more new business.
Yes, I love that. I think several things you said, but one, I think that's a really good offboarding opportunity with residents. And we don't talk about that nearly enough. But, in the same way that you offboard, employees and things like that and try to keep that relationship positive, you want to do that same thing with your residents because, yes, they'll come back, right? Or they'll refer others. So offboarding, making sure you keep that relationship up and then maybe set another touch point with that former resident and just say, hey, how are things going? We'd love to have you back. But keep that conversation going even past their residency. Another thing I love that you brought up, apartment ratings and keeping up with your reviews, that does give you a temperature check. In addition, if you are a Satisfact client and you have our insight surveys, you guys, those are golden. So those will give you very specific information on your community and what is happening and what's going on in the eyes of your residents. Because sometimes we're so busy doing the work, we don't think about, how are people feeling? Like, what is the vibe at our community right now? So it gives you a little insight into not only what's working and what's not, but also, what are some of those sort of, why are they not saying, yes, I'm very likely to renew? So you get early indication of what that is so you can make adjustments. In addition, doing your action plans. So if you guys have our insight surveys, I highly, highly recommend you do those action plans because those really help make that renewal conversation so much easier because you're doing the work up front. So if you do have that, hopefully I'd love to chat with you about it, but those action plans, if you don't use ours, do an action plan that really starts to tackle some of the things that you see consistently at your community. All right, sorry. All kinds of fun stuff. I love all of the ideas that you guys have. So the other thing is, as we talked about value, and we talked earlier about it starting from day one, right? That value conversation. So what are we doing to sort of set the stage at the very beginning and all the way through their residency to have them stay? So we want to look for fun, innovative ways that we're keeping them at our communities. So Kim, I know you just chatted with us, but if you can kind of share your fun, innovative ways to motivate people to stay.
Well, first we tell you when you move in, you're not allowed to leave unless you buy a house or move out of state. And I really do say that. I laugh, but I'm really not kidding. We show them that they never want to leave by taking care of everything from the beginning. So from the sales process, where you have someone touring an apartment, our residents speak for us. They tell people this is a great place to live. So your customer service, I can't say it enough, your Satisfact, your customer service reviews, it's key to staying on top of things that are not going well and that you may not be aware of. Also, we offer a variety of events, and we typically don't have to spend a lot of money or do anything great or elaborate. I really do think it's quite simple. It's catering to the customer and sometimes the littlest things mean so much to them that you never even would think. And I've also seen where you don't even have to have one event and you still have great customer service because you actually have those relationships. It always goes back to that, to making them feel comfortable.
That's so true. I think events are sort of like the cherry on top, right? But it's really the individual connections and conversations that you have along the way that really make it a big deal. I think one of our audience members said that they just bought an anniversary gift for a resident of 23 years. How cute is that? I love it. That's so fantastic. I love celebrating those folks that really are your brand ambassadors, right? They love living at your community and you want to celebrate them as we kind of have on the slide here. But I think that's really cool. I would love a picture of that if you guys have it. Sorry. All right, Jerry, what do you guys do?
Yeah, of course. So we have, I'd like to really talk about anything new, exciting, or amenities, initiatives that you're working on, whether your property, your company, or wherever your location is. A big thing for us is giving back to the community events, anything that we're doing, whether it's drives that we're having or silent auctions, anything like that. That's really, really important. We partner with the American Red Cross so that we do a lot of blood mobiles. So that's really something that I like to talk about when we're doing our renewals for our company. Also talking about in Minnesota, we have a light rail coming in and it's going to impact a ton of new development that we have going on. So talking about the light rail, you're going to be able to go to work and you can go down to a Twins game, Vikings game, whatever it may be in 15 minutes. That's really, really exciting. And, getting them excited about the community growing. And of course, once you get to know them, once you have a relationship established with them, it's much easier to tailor that recommendation based on the conversations that you've had with them and how you know them. So if you know that they're a huge Twins fan, talk about the light rail and how quickly they're going to be able to get down to the game. Or if they love a specific restaurant in the area, talk about that. And, maybe it's something where you throw in a little gift card to that specific restaurant with your renewal. So, making sure that you really do get to know them throughout their entire time with you. And it's not just, throwing out all the stops at the end of their lease. Most of the time they've had some time to look at other places. And if you have that relationship established with them, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to throw out that small recommendation at the end. And that might be something that turns their experience around and, or confirms that they definitely do want to stay. Then another option that you can do is queue of renewal gifts. So we used to do, I used to do this when I was a leasing manager, but I used to send out mugs with hot chocolate to their door, and it had cute sayings. And it wasn't just that, but one of them that I really, really sticks to mind is I just said, like, residents like you warm our heart. So I would send out mugs for everyone in their apartment with some hot chocolate, some marshmallows in there. So that was really, really exciting. And, they would talk about it, and I would put it outside their door so that, their neighbors could see that their renewal was up and they could see that gift on their door. Or you could do something simple like a popcorn bag and say, pop into the office and chat about me about your renewal options or something like that, just along with the letter that you can send out. Or if you're sending an email, do something like that. And then with Steve & Scott, we also have a resident loyalty program. And I know that that's not always the easiest thing to incorporate with everyone's company. But for us, we have that once they've been with us for 5 years, 10 years, and 25 years, we do give them back a credit for being loyal to us for that long-term residency.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. Do you guys manage that in-house?
Yes, we do.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, that is doable. As long as we can keep track of all that information, it's not an extra cost except for, the gift or whatever it is, the credit. So that's really cool. All right, Danja, what do you have?
First, Jerry, I have all my mugs from all the properties that I lived at, and they gave me. So I'm partial to the warming my heart with a mug.
And I'm drinking out of my last property that was at. I have the mug for my last property. So yes.
I wanted to just, before I go into this question, we had talked previously, somebody mentioned how some move outs can be referrals. And just a little pro tip is to leave them on your newsletter list. And that way they're always getting what's going on at your property and kind of FOMO of what they're not missing out on, but what they used to have and love, and that helps them remember you more when you go to reach back out to them. But that's just something that I used to do when I was on site and had people come back to see me again. But for us, as I told you, we're raising rents quite a lot and we're doing renovations. So some of our current residents are feeling a little down about their apartments because they're older and we are pushing rents so that we can create a little bit of churn. So we've decided to have a little renewal menu that they can select off of that adds value to their apartment for them and is something that we might be doing to other apartments. So we have I made up little themes in my head. We have a light up your life theme where they can get new LED lights in their hallways and kitchens. We have a color your world theme where they can have an accent wall painted. And then we have the spa upgrade, which is a curved shower rod and updated shower head. So that's something that we're working on building out is like, how many years do you have to live here before you get these certain updates? And then you can choose from a couple of things instead of just yield carpet clean. And that's because a lot of our apartments actually have hardwood floors, so we can't even do yield carpet clean for our renewals.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then I know it depends on your market and what's going on, but sometimes early bird renewal contests are popular, and you don't have to give away rent or money. I've given away a television, an iPad, tickets to a local theme park if somebody renewed early, if I was trying to get people to sign the renewal early so I could kind of predict what was going on. So that's something that that we used to do. We're not doing it currently just because the market is super tight.
Yes, absolutely.
And just because I keep harping on about this, but when all is said and done, if you're building value in the apartment, if you have a good maintenance team and you make people feel at home and you build those relationships that Kim and Jerry are talking about, then people will want to stay there and they'll put up with a little rent increase. They might fuss a bit, but if you make them feel like it's their home, then they are going to want to stay there.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. So we're talking about relationships, we're talking about the maintenance team, and I think one thing that we often miss is including our maintenance teams in these conversations when we sit down and we sort of brainstorm as community teams and we think about, how are we going to tackle, if you're talking about maybe your insight surveys, like how are we going to fix this problem or how are we going to sort of modify this to make it better? Making sure that everyone on your team is involved, because it's always easier to sort of go in the same direction with each other if you're all aligned and understand what the goal is, and then also have input in that, because your maintenance team is so important to your renewals and your conversations that you want to make sure that they understand all the ongoings, what's happening with each resident. And then also, what is your plan? How are you modifying your experience to make sure that there is value included so that they are all doing the same things as well? Because one person may think, oh, this is what I should do that'll make this better. And so they'll all be going in different directions. But if you have one plan together and you maybe talk about it monthly at a brainstorming meeting that you have, or just your normal community meetings, I think that goes a long way, because it gets everyone involved, and then your maintenance team has a stake and a say in those conversations, and they know what's really making an impact. So if you talk to them about what the feedback is that you're getting, then they can use that to their benefit and help even more than they already do. So making sure they're included makes a big difference. One thing I saw, I was trying to catch the questions as quickly as I could, but we often get the question, what does it mean to celebrate your residents or add that sense of community? And it sort of changes yearly, but this year it's really about celebrating your residents. Sometimes it's about, do I feel like this helps my sort of personal brand to live at this community? But right now it's more about, do I feel celebrated? Do I feel like I'm part of that exclusive club? And I know it's not like specific, like I tell you, go do this and this will help your sense of community. But it really depends on your vibe at your community. What is going on at your community? What makes you different? And how are you capitalizing on that to make sure your residents feel it? So if you have a huge dog-friendly community, are you celebrating animals? Using social media right now makes a big difference. As we know, everyone's on social media with with the pandemic and all of that, people are on it even more than they were before. So using that to your advantage as a retention tool will definitely help in your renewal conversations. So celebrating your residents, if you have like a pet of the month or a resident of the month, or if you just talk about their businesses or what they do or help them in some way, personally inviting people to your events. While that sounds so simple, it actually helps not only increase your event attendance, but it also makes them feel like they know me well enough to like actually ask me personally to come to this. They want me to be part of it. So there's so many things that really add to that sense of community, but there's not like a laundry list of things that if you just do these 2 things or these 4 things, you're going to get that increased sense of community. I wish it was that easy, but it's not, because it really depends on your community. But celebrating residents is the biggest piece of that. And so again, using social to your advantage, and then in-person connections. I think, creating those like collision points at your community, those really make a difference too, because that helps with the neighbors conversations, because if they know their neighbors better, that makes that a little bit easier in general. And it also gives them more connections at your community and reasons they wouldn't want to leave. So collision points meaning, events or, like breakfast on the goes, or come down and see this, or do a trivia or something, get them all involved in your social media, those kinds of things where your residents will interact. And it can be small things, it can be big things. It's really sort of up to you. Okay, sorry, I went off on a little diatribe there. All right, so renewal event ideas. So as I mentioned earlier, so a couple of reminders. Don't forget, hopefully you saw all the records and the lyrics on those. Share that artist or band on our social media post. That'll be up a couple hours after the webinar. So take a look for that. But then we'll also have a link to our renewal event ideas guide. So we'll add that in the follow-up email. So look out for that too. But we thought we'd go through and do a quick, what renewal event ideas do our panelists have? So Danja, if you want to start, just some renewal events that have really worked for your team.
Okay, I just had kind of one idea that we had done before. We had a really tight market in a cul-de-sac where we called it the cul-de-sac of apartments, because there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 apartments in this cul-de-sac. So it was really competitive. And one of our competitors had taken a contract with the Navy and had 40 people moving out at the same time. So they're being super aggressive with pricing, and we were worried about our renewals. So we had a renewal party, and we had it on the 25th of the month. And if you renewed on this very day, we gave you just a $25 increase if you signed on that day. And we had a cake and prizes. Everybody who came was we celebrated everybody. It was it actually turned out really well. We got quite a few renewals, even though we were increasing prices and we were over what the comps were offering to move right next door. We were able to capture some leases. We had about 40 expiring, and I think we captured, I can't remember how many we captured on the day, but it was a pretty significant amount. So if you're in dire circumstances, having a renewal party is something that was really interesting. I hadn't done it before, but it did work for us in this situation.
I love that. Jerry, do you want to share some of yours?
Yes, of course. So resident events, I absolutely love resident events. So I think when you asked me the question with this, I sent you a million ideas. So I absolutely love resident events. But for renewal, once we had a bingo, so it was like a bingo, and I think it was like celebrating like National Nothing Day or whatever it was, but we kind of incorporated everything to like a resident event and then a renewal event. But for bingo and the different prizes, we would often put on there, like if it was, we only had carpet in the bedroom. So if they wanted a carpet, like a refresher for their carpet, we could certainly do that. Or if it was anything that we could add value into their apartment, and we were a pretty new community, but doing something like that, we would put those on the bingo cards or the bingo prizes. Or like, let's say they wanted to rent the party room. That was a huge one. Or free parking for their guests. Anything that we could add value and it wouldn't necessarily cost us too much. That was something that we would add for the prizes. But another big one, our residents absolutely loved doing, giving back to the community, whether it was Toys for Tots or doing coat drives, food drives. They absolutely loved doing that. So one year, what we did is we wrapped presents for them, and they could create a donation, whether they wanted to Venmo or if they wanted to bring in a cash donation or whatever they wanted to give, so that we had for the holiday season. So we were wrapping their presents and then we would give back to the community. They would help us give back. So that was a really, really fun event that we did. Another fun one is helping them clean out their apartments. It's really easy to accumulate stuff. If anybody has ever moved, you know how easy it is to accumulate stuff. And, all of a sudden you're digging your closet, and you're digging and digging and digging. You have so much stuff. So a great thing that we did for our residents is we offered, we did a whole month event and we tailored that around I think it was Earth Day. What we did was cleaning out, so fresh start for your renewal, for your new lease. So cleaning out their closets. If they had old coats or clothes, whatever it was, we called a Salvation Army truck and they picked up everything in our lobby. So that was really, really great. Everybody was cleaning out so they could have a fresh start. Another thing was cleaning out their pantries for the food drives, especially this season. Like I said, our residents loved giving back and we absolutely love doing that. So cleaning out their pantry so they can have a fresh start. And also giving back to the community. And another big one is cleaning out all their old paperwork. So we brought in a shredder truck. We had it there for a couple hours and they would just be able to come down and drop off all their old paperwork, and it was shredded directly on site. And when they went back to their apartments at the end of the month, they had a fresh new start, whether it's at the beginning of the year or a specific season, with their renewal. Those events went really, really great with our residents.
And I love that. And I think, we often think of renewal events as they have to be specific to just people that are renewing. But if you think about it, in the month that you're having them, if you personally contact those that are renewing and sort of make it an event, but also you get this special deal and we'll have this, if you have questions, we'll have it ready for you. So you can always personally invite those that are renewing. And maybe that's how you start doing that, add it to every event that you have, because we're all having events more often now that things are opening up a bit. So, making sure that we're personalizing it to those renewal folks, while not leaving the others out, obviously.
Absolutely.
That we're still inviting them personally, because that adds again to our sense of community, but also might help us get a signature too. So, so good point. All right, and Kim.
I agree with you 100% because I feel like renewal opportunities are constant. So, and again, I always say, gauge your crowd or look at your audience. I have a lot of seniors, so they're not so big on the social media, maybe a little Facebook here and there, but they're not really that active on that. So what we had to do, we had a vaccination clinic when COVID vaccines were really, really popular and everybody wanted them and couldn't get them. We had 2 hours to stage a vaccination clinic with me as the administrator registering you for your shot. And our maintenance team went door to door and got everyone to the lobby to line them up and register and get them vaccinated. And I would say that that one act has given both properties the most customer service that I've ever seen it get in terms of ratings. That meant everything to them. We had people that had maybe a boyfriend over and he got vaccinated too. So I think that went a long way. And I love your idea about how you give back to society and the community, because we did that too. We put in their name a bunch of pictures at senior homes for people with, that couldn't have visitors, just telling them Happy Easter and have something to look at because they couldn't see anybody. Sorry, it makes me really sad when I think about that event that we did. And then so I think that the residents felt like we not only had a sense for them, but we had a sense for our community. We also send them personal birthday cards by mail because seniors live for the mailman. And when the mailman comes, they all gather to get their mail. So we send them Valentine's Day cards, real Valentine's Day cards. last year. We also send them birthday cards. And one gentleman, which we hand delivered this birthday card, he said that he didn't even know we knew it was his birthday. And that was the only card he got that day. So he was like, I thought he was going to cry. It was really a really touching moment. So again, I cannot stress enough how much it means to have these personal relationships and also thank them. Like every time we have something that's annoying, like the park team project, we thank them. We put it out there, flyers, everything, saying thank you so much. Our residents are great. We love you. You guys really are the best residents ever. And I think it means something to them.
Yeah, and I think people often think of handwritten notes just for seniors, but I believe that that goes a long way for everyone because no one gets interesting mail anymore. It's always, a deal or a coupon or an ad of some kind. So, just adding that personal touch, that adds to sense of community too. And it can just be I'm thankful. You never know how much impact you'll have on someone by just that really small gesture. So I think, handwritten notes, I would love to see those come back in full force, right? I absolutely love those. So I think that's a really good point. And especially if there's not any sort of motive behind it. So make sure it's not, we'd love for you to renew. Thanks for being here. Just make it really genuine. I think, having that sort of genuine relationship with your residents and really authentic really makes a difference when they're thinking about if they want to renew or not. So there's all kinds of ways you can do it. Hopefully it's just happening naturally throughout their residency with you guys. But as I mentioned, if you want fun things to do in the email, we'll have one that's a taco theme. We have a circus theme. We have sign and dine. We have all kinds of cool event idea flyers that you can use. We also have examples of a sort of renewal menu, if you will, or value adds that will be included in that attachment to your follow-up email. So that will be coming. Let's see here. So we want to thank everyone, number one, for being here. Don't leave yet. We've got some stuff to still cover. But some of the key takeaways, I think sense of community, even though that's really just talking about your resident experience, it applies to everything in the resident life cycle, right? It applies to whether or not they refer someone. It applies to if they're happy in general, if they're writing good reviews, like building that sense of community. We can't really capitalize on that enough. But that is really the biggest driver of renewal intention, and also easy conversations at renewal time where they're like, oh my gosh, it's totally worth it for me to spend a little extra money to stay here because what I get here, I wouldn't get somewhere else. So finding out what your value proposition is at your community specifically will go a long way. So what is it that you offer that really sets you apart? Because we all have something. There's always something there. So find out what that is. Make sure that you're really showcasing that in every sense that you can. Again, make it worth it. If you're making a huge increase on rent and they can go somewhere else, make sure you really look at your comps. Make sure that if they go somewhere else, they're either going to have to pay more or they won't get the same value. So make it worth it. Make it so that it's easy to explain when you have those renewal conversations. As our panelists said today, there's lots of things that you can make sure that validate for them. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That is important to me. But having those tailored conversations with your residents and understanding what their specific objections are before you just start listing the laundry list of potential objections, make sure you find out what it is for that person and then speak to that directly. Because again, that goes a long way for them feeling like they're part of it because it's you talking to them personally. And then don't wait to engage. As we mentioned, it starts at day one. So don't wait until it's time to start sending letters. Make sure you're doing that far sooner and you're planning connections with those residents before any kind of renewal conversation is even coming up. So don't wait to engage. Do it as soon as you can, especially now, it's slow season. Those renewals are way more important now than in the busy leasing season. So we want to make sure we capitalize on as many of those as we possibly can for that. So hopefully you had some tidbits today. I want to thank my amazing panelists today. We had some experts. They're all doing amazing things at their communities, and you can tell by their retention rates. So thank you to all of you for joining us. I did want to look into if we have questions. Okay, I don't think there's too many. So just to give you all sort of an update on what's coming up, as I mentioned, if you enjoyed this webinar, we'd love for you to be a panelist too. What are you an expert on? Please share with us because we want to share your knowledge too. So if you have something that you're an expert on in the exit survey, I'll ask questions. I'll give some examples, but if you have something else that you'd love for us to cover in a future Power Panels webinar, please share that with us because we'd love to have you. We typically like it to be an on-site team member. So if you have someone, if it's not you, if you want to nominate someone, please let me know. You can email me. It's mdecicco@satisfax.com. So mdecicco@satisfax.com if you have anyone you'd like to nominate or if you'd like to be a panelist yourself, or you can put it in the exit survey. And we also want to know what you want to know. So if there are topics that really interest you that you want us to cover, we would love to do that. So please suggest some topics for us. We will be announcing in December the Q1, so the first quarter of 2022 Power Panels webinar topics. So that will be coming out in December, so look out for that. In addition, we have Epic Week coming up in December, which is all about Epic and how you can really capitalize on your reviews and your online reputation. So all kinds of fun stuff about Epic will be the week of December, I think it's 13th. So that week, that mid-December week, so we hope you all join us then. In addition, so the $50 Starbucks gift card. So about an hour or so after the webinar on Satisfax Facebook or Satisfax Education on Instagram, we're going to post the rating of this webinar. And so on that post, if you don't just ignore that like and post with a comment, make sure you comment with the band or artist name that you saw on the records today. So use that in the comments and like the post, and we will announce the winner tomorrow. So in this, I always like to share, this is the Butterbeer Frappuccino. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, I guess this week was the 20th anniversary. Yes, we're old. The 20th anniversary of Harry Potter. So I thought this was fitting that this is on the secret menu. So you can go ask for that at Starbucks. So hopefully one of you wins this Starbucks gift card to share that Starbucks with your team. So we're excited and thank you all for being here. Again, the next webinar that we'll host is January 20th, same time, same place. Thank you again to my panelists. You guys were amazing, and I can't wait to share all of the flyer and renewal event ideas in our follow-up email. So thank you everyone for being here, and we hope to see you all soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.